All right, I'm here. You guys have seen that we've got this all set up here. I've got the head gasket here, which we're just going to kind of quickly look at. And then I'm going to try and put the cylinder head over here and try and put the cylinder head on top of this engine. What I've got here is timing chain. I've got the timing chain set on the crank sprocket down at the bottom. And I'm going to have to set it on the crank sprockets on the camshafts when I set this up. But the most important thing that I've got to do right now, guys, is get the head on. I got to go and turn off my speaker on the other. Okay. Head gasket. You guys can all see the head gasket, all right? And the head gasket's got 6 holes for the 6 cylinders. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now this head gasket is a little bit worn. It's a little bit old. The rubber on the head gasket, if you remember what we did yesterday, the Elect 2, the rubber on the head gasket for the Elect 2 head gasket was red. On this particular gasket, it's the blue areas here. Now, this head gasket's been on and off this engine 4 or 5 times. Okay, so this blue area here is rubber. And if you could feel it, you could feel that it's rubber, all right? So it used to be raised a little bit more, but every time you crush it, that rubber is getting crushed and it's getting thinner and thinner, okay? So we've got different parts on the cylinder head that do different things. So we've got we've got a bunch of bolts here. And the holes for our head bolts are these big ones here, okay? We've also got coolant water passages, okay? And our coolant water passages have to be here around the cylinder. Because if you're looking at these cylinders, they're freestanding, okay? So you've got this right here, which is your coolant passages. So you've got water that's in here. Your coolant or your water sits in here, and that's what cools the cylinders, all right? So on the head gasket, we have to have coolant passages. And those are these things right here, which kind of surround the little holes that you see. So those are coolant passages. The other things that we've got on this engine, we have to have a way for the engine oil to get from the oil pan. So the oil pan's down at the bottom. Okay, so the oil pan's down at the bottom of the engine. The oil has to get up through the engine to get up into the cylinder head, all right? And so we've got different passages for the oil to go up into the cylinder head. And we've got different passages for the oil to go down into the cylinder head. So when I'm looking at this block, I can see where my oil passages are. And you know how I can see and how I can tell? Because I can tell by the color, all right? So my coolant passages are very clean, but my oil passages, don't forget, I've got this dirty oil kind of running back down into the crankcase, which is the crankcase. You've got the oil running through the block, going down into the oil pan, okay? And that oil kind of gets discolored. And it'll discolor the metal. So if I just look and I'm looking for signs of where the oil is going back down into the oil pan, I just kind of look on the block and I go, okay, this here's an oil passage going down, going this way. That's an oil passage. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 oil passages that just allow the oil to drain from the top of the engine, from the cylinder head, go back down to the oil pan so the pump can suck it back up and push it back up. The other places that we have to have oil, the oil has to come up under pressure from the oil pump, okay? It's not the big passages. We've got small little holes in the block, and I've got to look to see where they are, and we've got 2, okay? So we've got 2 oil passage holes, and 1 cylinder head, and oh, okay, so if I'm looking at my cylinder head gasket here, these are all return holes here, 1, 2, and the one that sends the oil up to the cylinder head is actually this one. It's big, but when I look at my head gasket, all right, you can see big hole, right? And those are the ones that I just identified, big hole, big hole. So these are allowing the oil to drain back down. So this allows the oil to go this way through these big holes. But when you see a small hole like this, it means that this is pressurized, all right? So we've got oil coming through under pressure, and this is the oil hole here. So right here, all right, that's allowing the oil to come from the oil pump and come up into the cylinder head. All right, so I'm going to put the gasket back on. Okay, and I have to make sure that my head gasket matches my cylinder head. Hold on to my chain. And again, my chain is not moving because I've got it set up on the crank in the bottom, and it's kind of locked with these guides. I'm just using this just to hold the chain down so that it doesn't slide back into the block, okay? Head gasket going on. Got the head gasket on. Looks like it's all correct. It's all lined up. All my holes are correct. I'm going to try now. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to attempt to put the head on, but I'm all by myself. And I've got the biggest problem for me is going to be this, because I've got to slide this through, and sure, I'll try. The head itself is fairly heavy, but it's just the head. I've removed one of the camshafts because I can't put that camshaft in until it's on top of the block anyhow. So let me try. So I'm bringing it over here so that I have enough room. I'm going to try and show you guys how I'm going to drop this on, okay? Again, my biggest problem is going to be getting this through my cylinder head, the little space that I've got. All right, let me just prep this. Give me a. Should have had this prepped. That's my fault. And I see that I don't have a bolt in there. So I've got a bolt that's going to be in my way, and I've got to get that bolt out of the way. That's going to prevent. That's going to prevent installation of the head. So I've got to remove a very special bolt, and this bolt is used for this guide. So I've got a special bolt in here, and I've got to take it out. This will be done later. I won't be able to install this bolt today. Not while I'm showing you guys. So if you guys look at this bolt is a very special bolt, okay? All right. It's got a Torx head on it, and it doesn't really look like a bolt, but it is. It's threaded on the bottom, and then this here allows my guide to move on it. So the guide has a little hole in it, and this kind of goes into the hole in the guide. Okay, so that's a very special bolt. If I show you one of the other guides for the chain, all right, we've got I can't take it up, but we've got a hole here, and we've got something in here that can move. You can see it moving, all right, and it's circular, it's cylindrical, just like the one that I just took out, but I can't take it out. And what happens is I've got a bolt that goes through it, and now it can move around. So if I have that bolt and I'm holding it in the back, it can move around on that guide. And that's why we have these special bolts, okay? Because we've got a metal cylinder sleeve going into a plastic guide. Again, my chain is locked, so I'm not too worried, but I've got to move it out of the way, because if I don't move it out of the way, I won't be able to get the guide in. And honestly, I didn't think about this yesterday, So I've got to get something really small here now. I've got to get bolt, I suppose. I've got to get something short to go through this. And again, my chain can't move. I've got it locked. It's not moving. It's kind of falling down. My bad, guys. I didn't think about this. Got it all prepped yesterday. I didn't think about it. Piece of wire here. So I'm just kind of installing a piece of wire, and that's going to prevent my chain from going too far down because I kind of need it up. All right, chain is ready. This chain is not ready. I have to loop this wire around the chain so it can't slide down. If I have this chain slide into this block when the head is on, it's going to be incredibly difficult to try and fish it out. So I'm going to have to try and do this. I have to lock it. So this will lock it. So now it's just kind of being held in place by this wire. All right, let's see what I can do. I should have actually tried this yesterday, but this is, I guess this is what live streaming is all about. All right, let's try this. We see it full. I've got to take the sprocket off. I'm still in the camshaft, but I'm not worried because it's not on the block. I don't think that this is going to work because this camshaft sprocket is going to be in the way of this guy. I can try, but I don't think that this is going to work. This cannot come out. This has to go in. I got to get a tool. All right, so I need my ½ inch here again. I got to spin this bolt out quick. And we need this because I couldn't spin it fast enough. Bolt is out. My sprocket's got to come off. And again, my sprockets, they can only go on one way. So that is okay. So this sprocket can only go on one way. And the reason I know that it can only go on one way is if you look on the back of it here, okay, I've got a little dowel that sticks up. So you see that little dowel? That little dowel only allows the sprocket to go in one way, all right? So that little dowel will prevent me from putting this on in the wrong position, okay? It can only go on one way. All right, so now that I've cleared this area here, I'm gonna try and put this head on. Let's see, not too bad. Now, if you were trying to put this engine back together, you would never do this by yourself. If this engine was going back into a car, I couldn't have this cylinder head scraping along the head gasket. you would ruin the head gasket. What has to happen is when you're doing this, you would have to lift it nice and level, 2 people, put it down on top of this block, nice and straight, so we're not damaging the head gasket, okay? And then getting these guides through this area here in the cylinder head, okay? So I'm gonna try and do this by myself. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it, but let's see what we can do, okay? Okay, so not bad. I've got one guide that's not quite right. It's kind of sticking out. And again, if this engine was going back into a car, it would never be done this way. All right? So I'm going to try and get this guide over. Once I get this guide over, the head will go. Oh, so my head is on. My gasket is still in position. And then there's a bunch of lining up that has to be done. So now I have to line up my head. There's centering dowels on the block. And I've got to line up the head with the centering dowels. So I'm going to have to spin it around. And my bolt holes are all still good. Just going to try and move it around and get it lined up. This is off. Forward. That has to come forward quite a bit. My chain is okay. I've got my chain here. I'm not sure, but this is not moving forward. What? It's all good. It's on. This is not working, guys. Head is on, but I've got to move it forward maybe a centimeter. But I can't pull it forward. I don't know why. I don't think this is on. So I'm trying to center it. I've got to push it forward. There's no head bolts in here. Okay, so I didn't realize it, but there's one head bolt in here. And that head bolt is probably what's giving me the grief. So I didn't realize that there was a head bolt in here. So there was one head bolt left in here. And again, I did not realize that there was a head bolt in there, a small one. And that's probably what's causing me to do. Yeah. So once that head bolt is not moved, because it's probably slipped into a hole. And that's preventing me from moving this forward. One head bolt. Let me just check to see if there's any other head bolts. Because what's happening is the head bolt's going down and it's sticking into a hole. And if it sticks into a hole, it's going to prevent me from pushing it forward. So, all right, so my head is on, but my gasket is not set up. So I'm going to put this up. So these are the kind of issues that you guys would have to obviously. Head gasket is in position, head is on. Just gotta make sure to center all this. Yep, this is all good. Good. My head is now on the block. And I can feel it centered on the centering dowels that are on the block, all right? So what we have on the block are little centering dowels that kind of stick up. And then that centering dowel, okay, there's a hole, there's a matching hole. So you've got the male, you've got the female, there's a matching hole on the cylinder head. And then once we line it up, they kind of fit in together, and then we know that the cylinder head is centered on the block, okay? I'm gonna let this head bolt go down. My chain is here, my chain is still here. Now I wanna show you guys